Wah wah wee wah.
It's Commander Time! Welcome to Commander Time! We are yet another podcast about the Magic the Gathering format known as Commander.
Wow.
Wow.
Ooh.
I'm Nate Burgess.
I'm Dean Goody.
And I'm Patrick Sapola.
Today, we are brewing 3 of the new Commander 2017 Legendaries. I made a deck for Mairsil the Pretender.
I made a deck for Taigam, Ojutai Master.
And I made one of Wasasa Queen of Jundland. The Dragon Cat.
Wasitora.
Queen of
Nekoru Queen.
Yeah, Nekoru Queen. There we go. That's a little bit snappier than
Cat Dragon.
Yeah. She's the dragon with little legs.
The little leg dragon?
Yeah, little leg dragon.
What? Why are her legs little?
Because she's a kitty, not a dragon.
She's both.
Both and.
Yeah. Anyway, then we're going to talk about some games we played. We might tell you what our pets have been doing, and along the way, maybe you'll hear a goofy song. But first, is there anything but first?
School is starting back up, so do your homework, kids.
Yeah. And also, the guys over at Commander Cookout just did an episode on my Crewfix deck. So if you're interested in hearing about my Crewfix deck, but you don't want to hear me talk about it, go listen to that episode.
Yeah, you can hear them talk about it.
Yeah, you can listen to Dean talk about his Crewfix deck anytime you want. Just send him a message on Twitter at Grubfellow, and he'll burn your ear off.
Mm-hmm. There I am.
Fun times.
Giving you forced hugs.
All right, so let's talk about some decks then.
Yeah, let's do it.
Shout out to our patron of the week, Matt Childs. The main topic. All right, so I made a deck around Mairsil the Pretender. It's 1 blue, black, red, legendary creature, human wizard, 4/4. That's okay. When Mairsil the Pretender enters the battlefield, you probably will, you may exile an artifact or creature card from your hand or graveyard and put a cage counter on it. Mairsil the Pretender has all activated abilities of all cards you own in exile with cage counters on them. You may activate each of those abilities only once each turn. Oh, only once. Oh well, guess I should have a bunch of abilities then. So if you look at the art, it's some mean-looking guy standing at the top of a pit and looking down into the pit. And from the perspective of the art, you're the person in the pit. So the flavored text of this card should be, "It puts the lotion in the basket."
Or it gets the hose again.
So my deck has 47 creatures, and I have no intention of casting any of them. It has 0 instants, 0 sorceries, 0 enchantments, and 0 planeswalkers. How's that for a deck?
What about the planeswalkers that transform, Nate?
We'll get to those in just a minute.
All right.
The fact that you had 47 creatures in there actually explains a lot about the games that we played. I kept expecting, like, I don't know, a counterspell or faithless looting out of you, but just nothing was happening.
Yeah, that deck didn't do a thing. Didn't do a thing. Yeah, so as a reminder, activated abilities, if you're looking through the text of all the cards, activated abilities have a colon in the text. It's those 2 little dots that are right one above the other. So as counterexamples, things that might look like activated abilities, maybe dash, evoke, madness, or emerge, don't be fooled. Those are not activated abilities. They are alternate casting costs. So, things that do not work with Mairsil, and I verified by asking a lot of questions in the MTG Judge chat. How about Unearth, Embalm, or Ninjutsu? None of those work, because Mairsil needs to be on the battlefield for the card to have the abilities. Unearth and Embalm, you need to be in the graveyard for it to work. And Ninjutsu, you need to be in your hand for it to work. So, they don't work. Hey, Dean, you were talking about flip Planeswalkers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so flip Planeswalkers like Jace Vryn's Prodigy and Chandra Fire of Kaladesh, they have tap abilities that do something, and then you exile this thing from the battlefield and return it transformed. But Mairsil cannot transform. So it can't enter the battlefield transformed. So it does not enter the battlefield and it stays exiled. So if you're planning on using the flipped Planeswalkers to blink your Mairsil, it's not going to work.
Oh.
Nope. It's the same with clones of those guys. Also, if you make a token of one of those and you trigger it, that's just funny. The token just disappears. Doesn't even go. It goes into exile and just vanishes. Doesn't even go into the
Yeah, so no transforming.
It's fun.
Mairsil is not named Mirror Mad Phantasm.
Oh.
Nezumi Grave Robber is the only side of that card that Mairsil can access. So no Night Eyes the Desecrator for you.
Or any of those guys that flip from Kamigawa, eh?
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can only use the side that has the mana cost there. And as a reminder, Time Vault is banned.
And probably should stay banned.
Oh yeah. Reading tap to take an extra turn would be pretty good on your commander.
Oh, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, especially since it doesn't get the drawbacks of Time Vault of not untapping unless you do something. I think you skip your turn.
Yeah, and especially since Time Vault costs on the order of $1,000.
Worth it.
I want to take one more turn, please, for $1,000.
Here's something that we've had some debate about in a couple of chats, Nate. Does Mairsil work with Necrotic Ooze?
Well, Necrotic Ooze has all the abilities, all the activated abilities of creatures in all graveyards.
Yeah, I think the conclusion that we all came to was it does not work with Necrotic Ooze, but it is relevant for this section, right?
Mairsil does not work with Necrotic Ooze.
No.
The text on Necrotic Ooze is conditional. It doesn't just have an activated ability there. It's kind of like the slivers that say all slivers gain this activated ability. None of those would work with Mairsil.
Right.
Yeah, because the sliver doesn't have haste. It gives all slivers haste.
Yeah, you just need to straight up have the ability without some condition for Mairsil to have the ability.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to be printed on the card, right?
The card itself needs to have the ability on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ability needs to be printed on the creature or artifact.
Yeah. So let's talk about some things that do work with Mairsil. So I would recommend using low mana cost abilities unless they are awesome. Well, some creatures have abilities where you discard a card to activate the ability. And since Mairsil can cage cards from the graveyard, I don't really care if I discard a card. I'll just use it later. Some abilities you can pay life. Some abilities are activated with Phyrexian mana, which gives you the option to pay life. Some activated abilities just say 0. You pay 0 and you do the ability. So those are all pretty good. Preferably, we are prioritizing abilities that do not require tapping so that we can do more than one thing each turn. So go easy on the tap abilities. A lot of the best ones are tap abilities, but try to go easy on them. In the following categories, when I go over groups of cards, I'm going to start with the cards that do not require tapping. I'm usually going to go from best to worst, and then into honorable mentions. So I won't be reading the entire card for most of these, because to Mairsil they read activated ability.
That's what you always sound like, Nate.
I know.
The adults from Charlie Brown.
So step 1, get more abilities. Now, some ways to do this. You want to enter the battlefield more often. And I call this the Gonti challenge, because that's what Gonti wants to do. So, Patrick, what are some things that Gonti does?
Conjurer's Closet. I use Lifeline sometimes. I do a lot of reanimation. Things like Whip of Erebos, Shouldered. Oh, Erratic Portal is also great.
Ooh, I love Erratic Portal.
Yeah, another thing you can do is Panharmonicon and double your enter the battlefield triggers. So each time you enter the battlefield, you put 2 things in the cage.
Mm-hmm.
Or Rescue from the Underworld, maybe?
Oh.
Rescue from the Underworld. What's that?
You sacrifice a creature, and then you choose a creature card in your graveyard, and then you bring both of them back.
Oh. Or like Cauldron Dance.
Mm.
Yeah. That's a fun one.
Yeah, so these are some ways to do it. I'm specifically looking at creatures that have an activated ability, or artifacts that have an activated ability. You know, there are instants and sorceries you could use, but I'm really just looking at ways to do this the Mairsil way. I do have Panharmonicon and Conjurer's Closet, but I don't have much reanimation. What I do have, the best thing you can get, the number 1 card you want to have as your ability, is Aether Ling. And it's this weird toolbox thing that has 4 activated abilities. But one of them is you pay a blue, you exile this thing and return it on the next end step. And as long as you have blue mana, you can do that on every player's turn. And each time you do it, you put something else in the cage and you gain another ability. For a single blue.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most efficient way to do it.
That seems pretty good.
Another way to do it is you can clone Mairsil and then sacrifice the clone, but it does enter the battlefield. Pack Rat, you can do this by paying 2 and a black and discarding a card.
Ooh, I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just like rats.
You don't... Yeah. Shut up.
So, next category, returning them to your hand and recasting them without tapping. So the best way to do this is Grinning Ignis. You pay red, and you return it to your hand, and then you gain 2 in a red. So you get a little mana benefit, which makes it easier to recast him. Next are Ephemeron, Skywing Aven, and Thalicos Scout. They're all blue creatures. They all have an activated ability. Discard a card. Return this to your hand. And then you recast them. And you put that thing that you just discarded in the cage. Ta-da!
Nice.
Cavern Harpy. Pay 1 life. Back to your hand. Leashling. Put a card from your hand on top of your library. Go back to your hand. And you can always use Riptide Laboratory, the land where you pay 1 and a blue and you tap it. Return target wizard to your hand. I'm going to give honorable mentions to Foul Familiar, pay black and pay 1 life. Widwin the Biting Gale, you pay black and a blue and you pay 1 life. And Dimensional Infiltrator, where you pay 1 and a colorless, you exile an opponent's card, and if it's a land, it goes back to your hand. So next category is returning them to your hand by using a tap ability. That also does something else too. I think the best one in this class is Ovinomancer, which means a wizard who specializes in sheep.
Yeah, you got me with this guy.
Yeah. Ovinomancer has some mean restrictions on it as a normal card, but tap, return this to its owner's hand, and you destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. That creature's controller puts a 0/1 green sheep creature token into play.
He's not a goat. It's a sheep.
It's a sheep. And it's green.
You turn Taigam into a sheep.
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are Lady Sun and Coastal Wizard. You tap it and you return this to your hand and another target creature. And you have to do it before your attack step. The difference between these cards is Lady Sun is about $15 and Coastal Wizard is about a tenth of that.
I like the sound of that. $1.50 versus $15 sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Metathran Aerostat. If you pay X and a blue, you may put a creature card with converted mana cost X from your hand into play. If you do, return this thing to its owner's hand. So you get to put a creature on the board and you put your commander back in your hand to cast something else if you have enough mana. So the next category is Reanimating Marcil. This is tough to do through abilities. I didn't find anything that did it through creature abilities. The closest I came was Cauldron of Souls.
Demon of Dark Schemes.
Demon of Dark Schemes.
I don't know if that works.
It's not going to be great.
Yeah, but it won't
you
work
do
with
need...
Mairsil while Mairsil is in the graveyard.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the intention is for Mairsil to be able to reanimate himself, and he can't do that, because if he's in the graveyard, he doesn't have the abilities. So Cauldron of Souls was the closest I found.
That's why Reanimating the Skeleton doesn't work with Mairsil, even though he seems like he would.
Yeah, not going to work.
Mm-mm.
There are a couple ways to double the abilities that you have. Illusionist Bracers and Rings of Bright Hearth. And I don't really like either of those, because I'm blinking Mairsil so much, I don't want to pay the equip cost on the Bracers. And I don't know. I don't know about Rings of Bright Hearth. I might try it out.
Were you running both of these in your deck?
Nope. Neither one.
The Bracers are really good.
It's the equip cost, though, because I'm intending to keep blinking them in and out to get more abilities.
I mean, you could always run Brass Squire. You could tap Mairsil to equip the Bracers to himself.
Yeah, I could, sure.
You could. And then you've got stuff that untaps him.
Yeah, the problem is that you gotta go easy on the tap abilities. You really do.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when you get to the step 2, the step 1 was getting more abilities by entering the battlefield more often. But step 2 is doing the cool stuff. Things like winning the game. How about Tree of Perdition? Tap, your opponent has 4 life.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Yeah, you have a hasty Mairsil. You get to just do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other cost to that, right? It's just tap.
It's just tap.
Cool.
If you blink them, then you can do it to another player.
Mm-mm.
Because it exchanges his toughness with their life total, and then Mairsil will have like 30 or 40 toughness, which could come in handy. But if you blink him, then it goes back to 4, and you can do it to another player.
Doesn't even have Defender anymore.
Mm-mm. Forever. Pestilent Soul Eater and Vector Asp. They each have an activated ability. One of them's Phyrexian mana. And it gives this creature Infect. Ta-da!
Yeah. That was a surprise to the both of us, I think. We all of a sudden see him actually hardcast it, and we both just paused, and there was a moment of silence of what could have been.
Yeah, well, the thing is, even if you hardcast one of these creatures and it dies and it goes to the graveyard, you can still put it in a cage later, unless somebody's running Rest in Peace or something like that.
Oh, who would do that?
The next category of awesomeness is the mana-hungry stuff. And you gotta go easy on these, because you're not going to have enough mana to do all of them. So if you played a Memnarch deck, or you brewed a Memnarch deck, then you've probably brewed an Olivia Valdarin deck, or vice versa. And you can use both of them in your Mairsil deck.
But only once a turn.
Oh.
Well, if you have enough mana, you can use both of them.
Once
a turn.
Yeah, that's still awesome.
That's still awesome.
It is.
Then there's Empress Galena, which you pay blue, and you tap it, and you gain control of target legend. Legendary permanent.
Legendary permanent, yeah. You could pick up somebody's awesome land, which is Nykthos Shrine to Nyx or something like that.
Yeah, or their commander. And it's not until end of turn. You just gain control of it. Infernal Denizen, you can tap it to gain control of a target creature until this thing leaves the battlefield. So if you're blanking a lot, then Infernal Denizen is not as good.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to use your opponent's graveyards, Geth Lord of the Vault, the Scarab God, Chainer Dementia Master, and Haven Ghoul Lich. All of them can just pluck stuff right out of graveyards and put them on the battlefield for you. And then there's Una, Queen of the Fae.
One of Nate's favorites.
It is. And now it costs 4 mana instead of 6.
And you have access to a new color.
One of my favorite colors. The next section is removal. Do you like removal? There's some removal options. Kozilek the Great Distortion. Discard a card to counter a spell if the mana cost matches. And then it's in your graveyard, and you can probably put it in a cage later.
Oof, that seems good. We never saw that happen.
Thank goodness.
You didn't see that one. I don't think you saw Crypt Rats either.
No, but I also love that card.
I don't remember it, no.
Yeah, you pay X black mana to do X damage to each creature and each player. And if you also have Infect, that can be pretty cool.
But
yeah, cool.
Yeah, you'll kill yourself, too.
As long as everyone else has more poison counters than you at some point, you can do it.
Oh, the old Ichor Rats problem.
Yeah, well then you just give them Infect and you attack a couple times.
Okay.
And then they have more poison. Hex Parasite. You can kill Planeswalkers. You drain their loyalty counters and you get some power bonus. Kind of like Horde Smelter Dragon kills artifacts and gives you a power bonus based on the artifact CMC. And you don't have to tap any of those, but Helldozer you do have to tap. You pay black, and you tap it to kill a land. And if the land is non-basic, you untap it.
Seems good.
Yeah, it's expensive. I think 3 black mana is tough in this kind of deck.
But the untapping is nice.
The untapping is nice.
Do you have many abilities in this deck that give Mairsil the ability to untap himself?
I do. That's in step 3.
Okay, we'll get there later.
Yeah. So here's a character that is very good in this deck, but you probably never heard of him before. Shauku Endbringer. Now, the creature card itself, it's a legend. It has a lot of restrictions, but it says wah 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 tap, exile target creature, and put a +1/+1 counter on this thing. Ta-da! Then there's Minion of Leshrac. Tap to destroy target creature or land.
That guy costs 7 usually.
Well, now he costs 4.
Ugh.
Without any restrictions.
And he doesn't even have this drawback that Minion usually has.
Yep.
Oh, Nate, you're breaking this card.
Yep, just wash off all those nasty restrictions. Then there's the regular stuff like Avatar of Woe and Visara the Dreadful, where you just tap, destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated.
I use that one in Ganti to kill Ganti, so I can reanimate him.
Cool.
Of course you do. No sack outlets for you, just destroy Ganti.
Well, sometimes people take care of your sack outlets, and sometimes there isn't anything worth killing on a board, so you just kill your own Ganti.
Yeah, okay. Anyway.
This one's interesting. It gets political. Diao-Chan Artful Beauty. You tap to destroy target creature of your choice, and then you destroy target creature of an opponent's choice. I'm not sure if you get to choose which opponent. It seems like you would. But you activate it only during your turn before attackers are declared, so they might pick Mairsil to destroy, unless Mairsil has Shroud.
Of an opponent's choice. Yeah, I think it's just a non-targeted you choose an opponent. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
You can always choose a different player than the one you killed, too. So you can maybe...
hit the same player twice?
Yep. Use that politics.
Gang up on them. There's the old favorite Steel Hellkite, where if you do some combat damage, you can pay X and destroy everything of theirs that cost X. And there's Navineral's Disc. You pay 1, you tap it, destroy all artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and you could also, at the same time, be Soul of New Phyrexia and pay 5 mana to make all your stuff indestructible.
Wow.
So if you got 6 mana and Soul of New Phyrexia and Navineral's Disc in your cage, you can just keep wiping the board every turn.
Seems like a thing.
Yeah. Now we'll get into the lesser stuff that's still cool. The toolbox kind of stuff. How about some combat stuff? I already mentioned Aether Ling. It's got 4 abilities on there, and a lot of them are good. Morphling and Torchling are both similar to Aether Ling. They have 4 abilities. 2 of them are repeats across all of them. You can pay 1 to give it +1/-1 or -1/+1. But it's got some other stuff that could be useful. Joda's Avenger and Urza's Avenger. You pay 0, you get -1/-1, and then your choice of a few abilities, and some of them are cool. But if you're paying 0, then it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sky Ship Stalker is a dragon that you can pay a red to give it fire breathing, you can pay a red to give it first strike, or you can pay a red to give it haste.
This is the point at which your opponents realize you're playing some sort of a really weird Voltron deck.
Yeah, this plays a lot like Earl the Miststalker in personality. Not the colors, but the personality.
Not at all what you would expect.
Yeah, and the Commander Cookout podcast, they did an episode on Earl the Miststalker, episode 15. I guess you could go listen to it if you like that kind of thing. Anyway. Those guys. So, Cephalid Ink Shrouder. You discard a card from your hand, and you get Shroud, and you're unblockable until end of turn. And Trespassing Soul Eater gets an honorable mention in that it makes you unblockable for Phyrexian mana.
Does that work well with Infect?
Being unblockable works well with Infect.
You might be onto something there, Nate.
Yeah. This next one I like, Grotesque Hybrid. You discard a card from your hand, and you gain flying and protection from green and white until end of turn.
Yeah, you hate green and white.
It's gross.
Get him out. Yeah. Ain't no cat dragon can block me.
Yeah, there you go. No cat dragons.
Mischievous Poltergeist. You pay a life to regenerate. That's the cheapest one I found. Phyrexian Devourer. You pay 0, exile the top card of your library, and put X +1/+1 counters on, where X is the card's converted mana cost. And Pulsating Illusion, you discard a card and you get +4/+4 until end of turn.
Yeah, that one's really nice.
If you feel like tutoring, then Razaketh the Foul-Blooded has an activated ability where you pay 2 life and you sacrifice a creature. But for that, you'd need to plan on casting other creatures, or having some other creatures, or controlling some other creatures maybe. I didn't really plan on having other creatures. Sentinel Flute, you can pay X, and you can tap it to tutor for something that costs X. If you just like drawing cards, Sphinx of Magosi, Erebos, God of the Dead. Then there's Locust God. I like Jace's Archivist. In a lot of decks, you pay a blue and you tap it. Everybody does a windfall.
Don't even have to sacrifice them.
Yeah, and you get to fill up your graveyard. That's great.
And then there are the regular wizard kind of stuff, like Arcanus the Omnipotent, Azami Lady of Scrolls. Mercurial Chemister's interesting, and Magus of the Bazaar. All of them have tap abilities that have something to do with drawing cards. Then there's some other stuff. Patron of the Moon, you pay 1, and you put 2 lands from your hand onto the battlefield. So if you're drawing lots of cards or wheeling a lot, then this could come in very handy. Mirage Mirror, you pay 2, you become a copy of something until end of turn.
Oh my god, Mirage Mirror, that's really interesting.
Yeah, that can get weird.
The card is interesting, but to make Mairsil Mirage Mirror is really weird.
Yeah, that's weird. It would lose... Mairsil would lose all the caged abilities if it became something else until the end of turn, though. So it's kind of risky that way.
Gotta have a real good plan.
But you could copy somebody else's Mairsil. Oh-ho!
Oh, why?
I don't know, but that would be complicated.
Yeah.
Judge!
Judge. Then there's Force Field, which is a card that's over $200, but if you pay 1, then when a creature attacks you, it only does 1 damage.
Boing. Like a real force field.
Yeah. I don't think I mentioned Sentinel before, but Sentinel you pay 0, and your toughness becomes 1 plus the power of whatever is blocking you or that you are blocking.
Very nice.
So if you don't want to get killed by something that you're blocking, just Sentinel. So that's that stuff. And then the step 3 that Dean was talking about before is untapping so that we can tap more often. So the following all have an activated ability that involves an untap. Pilipala, Leech Bonder, Naxaw Cleek, and Hate Flayer. They all have activated abilities where you pay some amount of mana and you get to untap as part of the cost of the activated ability, and then it does something else for you. Eater of the Dead, you pay 0, and you can exile a creature card from an opponent's graveyard, and if you do, then you untap it. Staff of Domination is another one of those Planeswalker-like artifacts that has like 5 abilities on there, and one of them is where you pay 1 to untap. And then there's Horseshoe Crab, where you pay blue. Untap it.
He's a classic.
And that's a bunch of cards that I looked at for my deck, and I've got it posted up on our deck stats. And I might be writing an article about it.
Nice. Staff of Domination can go infinite with itself, but Mairsil limits it to once per turn.
Yeah.
Did you look at Quicksilver Elemental, Nate?
I've seen it, yeah, where you pay a blue, it gains all activated abilities of target creature. So I was thinking if you cast Quicksilver Elemental and it's a creature on the battlefield, it could gain all of Mairsil's abilities. I'm not sure if you can do the things twice, though, because I think the once per turn limitation is on each caged ability.
The once per turn is on Mairsil himself. So if you...
Really?
So if you exile Quicksilver Elemental with Mairsil, and then you activate Quicksilver Elemental's ability targeting Mairsil, you can use all of his abilities with no restriction. That's my understanding, at least.
Yeah, I don't know the rules that well.
I'm going to ask a judge.
Judge!
Yeah.
Ask the judge.
Let's take a quick break, and Nate will ask a judge. We'll play some wild Benny Hill music.
Hey, I could put the song in the middle of the episode.
Here we go.
In constant smashing all through his rage, I was an orc of constant smashing. I smashed helmets in my rage. I bid farewell to that old Tarkir timeline when I was battle crazed. The time when he was battle crazed. For in those years there were no troubles, no dragon lords were flying round. Now in this world I strike the bell. There are no cons to help me now. He has no cons to help him now. I fare thee well, my battle prowess. I never expect to Voltron again.
Quicksilver Wall. 4. Return Quicksilver Wall to its owner's hand. Any player may play this ability.
Yeah, give that to Mairsil.
Waiting for someone to answer. I think the judges are asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can always have a wild Nate appear when he does hear back from them.
Yeah, Nate can just edit that.
All right.
Boop, boop, boop. Oh, did you think about Walking Ballista?
Walking Ballista, I thought about it, but since I'm blinking myself or going back to my hand so often, and that's part of the plan, I'm not counting on having that many +1 counters. And paying 4 is way too much. There's a lot better things I could do for 4 mana.
Yeah, but you can also ping people and things.
Yeah, but for 4 mana, I could do a Scarab God and take someone's creature and make it a 4/4.
True. Another option you could go for is a Planar Bridge, which is, I mean, I'm just thinking outside of your particular build. Planar Bridge would just let you tutor.
Ooh, yeah. That's true.
Sure.
And put onto the battlefield. So if you have some infinite combos or something like that, that's just a way to end the game without having to dump 6 mana into it first.
So Planar Bridge, you
8
pay
tap.
8 mana and tap, and you put a permanent card from your library onto the battlefield.
You could also do Hope of Girpur, but
I did think of that one. I did consider that, but yeah, I wasn't too big on the sacrifice effects.
probably with good reason.
If you turn something that you control into a creature or an artifact and you exile it with Mairsil, will he still see it when he exiles it?
How? So
let's say that you put a liquid metal coating on Mairsil in a cage counter, and then you turn Magosia the Water Veil into an artifact, and then you exile it with Mairsil.
how would Marcil exile it?
The wording on Mairsil says you may exile an artifact or creature card. So it's not an artifact or creature. It has to be the card naturally has to be an artifact or creature.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It would go to exile as a land card,
Yep.
and Mairsil wouldn't see it.
Yeah, and it's not like liquid metal coating can target cards. It targets permanents.
Right. All right, interesting.
Up next is Taigam.
Yeah, Taigam.
And this is a good Taigam, not the evil Taigam.
Yes, this is the Azorius Taigam. This is from the non-erased Khan's timeline. So this is what Taigam is actually like right now. So Taigam, Ojutai Master, he's a 3/4 human monk for 2 white-blue. He says, instant sorcery and dragon spells you control can't be countered by spells or abilities, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, if Taigam Ojutai Master attacked this turn, that spell gains rebound. So it's exiled as it resolves, and at the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast it from exile without paying its mana cost. And then it'll go to your graveyard as normal. So, make sure that you remember that Taigam needs to attack to give your stuff rebound, because that was a mistake that I made in our first game. I thought, for some reason, I thought that Taigam just gave everything rebound, period.
I thought that too.
So, yeah, it seems, I don't know, intuitive that he would just do that, but he doesn't. So you're going to want to run stuff like Prowler's Helm, Key to the City, Whisper Silk Cloak, Trailblazer's Boots, Aqueous Form, stuff that gives him unblockable.
Or can take him out of combat.
Yes, you could run Rogue's Passage, but you probably don't want to, because paying 5 mana to give him unblockable is not generally going to leave you much mana to cast anything after that. But like Patrick was saying, you could run Reconnaissance or Maze of Ith to untap him and remove him from combat, yeah.
But not Mystifying Maze.
No, because that would exile him.
Yep.
Thassa could make him unblockable for 1 and a blue.
Yep, Thassa could. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can give him unblockable, but with Taigam, you probably want to use instants and sorceries, because then you can get him again, or stuff that sticks around, like the equipment. There's also... I didn't actually build instants and sorceries that gave him unblockable into the deck, but there's one with Flashback from Innistrad that I think also gives hexproof and gives unblockable. Anyway, there's a bunch of options that you can have under that category. What else do we have here? Flashback does not work with rebound, or casting a spell from any zone other than your hand doesn't work with rebound. You have to cast from your hand. Flashback spells are still pretty good, though, because you can cast it once for its normal cost, then it'll rebound and go to your graveyard, and then you can flash it back. So you still get 3 uses out of it.
It's a 3-for-1.
I don't think that came up in any of our games, did it?
Nope.
Taigam's Strike is 3 and a blue and gives it +2/+0. Can't be blocked this turn, and it already has rebound. So if something already has rebound, does it get 2 rebounds?
No.
Yes, it would have 2 instances, but it wouldn't do anything. It'll still go to exile once, it'll still cast itself once.
Okay.
And then since it's being cast from exile, it won't get another instance of rebound.
It's like giving something flashback a second time.
Right, yeah. Unfortunately not.
Okay.
So usually with a white-blue deck, you're going to want to play a really hard control game, or at least there's a lot of really good control options available to white-blue players. But in this deck, counterspells are fine, but they're not great. They're going to fizzle on the rebound, so you're not getting that double value that you want to get out of your spells. There are a couple, though, that are pretty good. Modal counterspells like Supreme Will and Cryptic Command. When they rebound, you can choose new modes for the spell. Supreme Will is Anticipate, and it's also Mana Leak. So either counterspell unless its controller pays 3, or look at the top 4 cards, and choose one and put the rest on the bottom. Yeah, 4 cards. So you can counter a spell, and then when it rebounds, you can look at the top 4 cards and put one in your hand. That didn't come up either, but I did run both of those counter spells in the deck. But modal spells are great, not just the counter spells, but any modal spell. I ran a bunch of them in the deck, and it was actually pretty relevant. What's your commander's name again?
Wasitora.
Wasitora. I hit Wasitora with Valorous Stance, which is an instant for 1 and a white. You can either give a creature indestructible until the end of turn, or destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. So I destroyed Wasitora, it got rebound, and then at my next upkeep, Taigam got indestructible and could attack for free, or without worrying about dying. Buyback is pretty good with rebound. When you cast it initially, if you don't pay the buyback cost, it'll go into exile and you cast it again for free at your upkeep. And then buyback is an additional cost you can pay. So on the rebound, you can pay the buyback cost and put it back in your hand.
Oh.
Cast it again, put it into rebound, and you basically get two uses out of it each time with the costs spaced out.
Oh, man.
So you need to pay that mana in your upkeep?
Yeah.
The buyback mana?
Correct, yes.
All right.
Yeah, that works for anything with an additional cost, like a kicker cost. You could pay the kicker cost on the rebound.
Cool.
Yeah. Spells that exile on resolution still get rebound.
What?
Because the spell will exile. Two things are trying to get it to exile. One is the rebound, and one is the resolution of the spell. So
when it comes to your upkeep, the rebound ability looks for the card in exile, and it doesn't really matter how it gets there.
Which is where it went anyway, exactly. Exactly. So spells like Expropriate, for example. One of Nate's favorite cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you like to cast that twice in a row? And since you're taking an extra turn anyway, you'll just cast it again on your next turn. Yeah, extra turn spells are really, really good with rebound. I didn't build them into the deck because I didn't want to take 1,000 turns in a row, but you could build a lot of time magic into a Taigam deck.
Yep.
And just take all the turns. Each extra turn spell, if it just says take an extra turn, it says take 2 extra turns.
It's gross.
It's pretty gross. Wrath effects are also really good in Taigam, because you're going to Wrath, wipe the board, everybody else is going to take their turns, they're not going to be able to rebuild because the Wrath is going to have rebound and it's going to cast again on your upkeep.
Especially modal Wraths.
Yes, you'll be able to rebuild before anybody else can, but the best Wrath you could run probably, or one of the best Wraths that you could run, is Austere Command. So you get to choose different modes each time you cast it. Austere Command is 4 white for a sorcery. Choose 2. Destroy all artifacts, or destroy all enchantments, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater. I actually got Patrick to play out some extra cards into this.
I was sleepy.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I was very sleepy. Wasn't fully paying attention. I still won that game.
Yeah, okay. But I think I blew up all the artifacts and all the big creatures, and then it rebounded, and I blew up all the artifacts again, which were just Patrick's, and the small creatures.
Darksteel Ingot was still there.
Yes, it was, because it's indestructible, but I tried. Rebound is you're actually casting the spell from exile for free. So anything that looks for cast triggers, like Aetherflux Reservoir, will see the spell being cast as a rebound, and will will trigger. So Aetherflux Reservoir was one of my win cons.
So it increases the storm count.
Correct, yes. Yeah, I suppose you could build just a straight up storm deck with this. You would get an extra... You would get to cast all those spells again. I think one time, in one of our games I had 3 or 4 very small spells on rebound. So that would have been a storm count of 4 before I even drew my card for the turn. Dovescape and Guile were also 2 of my win cons. They're really sort of more lockout pieces. Or Dovescape was. I didn't build Guile in. But Dovescape is an enchantment. Yeah, you guys didn't actually have to face this. Dovescape is an enchantment for 3 and Hybrid Azorius 3, so CMC 6. Whenever a player plays a non-creature spell, counter that spell. That player puts X 1/1 white and blue bird creature tokens with flying into play, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. Since Taigam says that your spells can't be countered, you get to just cast your spells through the Dovescape, and you still get the birds.
And if you attacked that turn, you also get to get it in rebound a second time.
Yep.
See, now the whole reason why I would build Taigam, as I plan to, is for the Dovescape Guile interaction, because then I can cast everybody else's spells too whenever they forget that Dovescape just auto counters it.
Right, and when you cast... Well, we should probably read Guile really quick. Guile is a elemental incarnation for 3 blue, 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 and he's a 6/6. Guile can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. And if a spell or ability you control would counter a spell, instead exile that spell and you may play that card without paying its mana cost. When Guile is put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library. So Guile and Dovescape are their own lockout. With Taigam out, you could cast all those instants and sorceries from exile through Dovescape for free and not have them get countered, even though they were countered when their owner cast them.
Yep. It's pretty sweet.
It's pretty nasty. Pretty nasty. Taigam goes into the 99 in a lot of decks, probably Shuyun, definitely.
Depends on the build, honestly. A lot of Shuyun decks don't run any other creatures besides Shuyun. So it's a good card if you're doing something closer to what my build was, where I was trying to combo off of Jeskai Ascendancy, but not necessarily in every Shuyun deck.
Not necessarily, but it wouldn't be a bad include, really.
It probably goes in Narset, for sure.
It could go in Narset, yeah, because you're doing time magic, so all of your time magic gets doubled. Though Narset will exile Taigam and will not be able to cast him from exile.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with that.
Well, you already do that to your lands anyway.
That's true. But yeah, Taigam is a great support for any blue-white deck that's trying to do Storm. I can't think of any other obvious ones. Are there any other decks that try to storm off or cast a lot of big spells? I feel like the white sort of throws a weird wrench in that.
Yeah. I don't know. He'll find a spot.
Definitely.
Especially in 5-color dragons.
Could be in a weird Esper deck.
And that could have both Taigams.
Oh, yes it could.
Taigam.
As a side note, I built into this deck Damping Matrix, Cursed Totem, and Torpor Orb. Those were some excellent anti-Mairsil pieces.
Yeah, what are you putting those in there for? I didn't tell you what deck I was building.
I know, I just psychically figured out what Nate was going to play somehow. Damping Matrix, it's an artifact that says the activated abilities of creatures and artifacts can't be activated. Cursed Totem is an artifact that says activated abilities of creatures can't be activated, and Torpor Orb says that creatures entering the battlefield don't trigger any abilities, so Mairsil won't be able to exile anything.
Yeah, I had some activated abilities I wanted to use.
1 or 2 or 7 or.
Can't use them. No using.
That's okay. I didn't have any for the most part.
You had a few, but not many.
Yeah, certainly not on my commander.
No, not on your commander. And then there's also creature versions of these cards. There's Hushwing Griff and Linvala, Keeper of Silence, which will also shut down Mairsil. If you're looking to shut down Mairsil.
Or I guess you could use Eldrazi processors to put our cage things back in the graveyard or to get these rebound spells out of exile.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happens?
Then you don't get it.
Well, you wouldn't be able to process your own rebound spells.
No, but if somebody has Eldrazi processors and they're facing a Taigam Ojutai Master and your spell's sitting in that exile, they can process it.
Also works with Rift Sweeper and the white instant.
Pull from Eternity?
Pull from Eternity. That's the one.
Yeah, so if you're looking to hate both Taigam and Mairsil, run Eldrazi processors.
So there you go, Patrick.
Okay. I did it a different way.
Fine, you have to go off and do your own special thing.
Yeah. So I built Wasitora Nekoru Queen.
Oh, wait. There's breaking news. Ask the judge. The judge chat has answered, sort of. One judge says that if Mairsil has Quicksilver Elemental in the cage and activates that ability targeting himself, you may activate those abilities as many times as you wish in that spot, pretty sure. But then another judge says that's being investigated by the rules manager, so the answer may be different in a week. So there you go.
But for now, break it while you can.
Break it while it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, on to Wasitora Nekoru Queen. 2 black, red, green for a cat dragon. 5/4 flying trample.
Oh, what?
Yeah. She's pretty cool.
All right.
But more than just flying and trample. She has, whenever Wasitora Nekoru Queen deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices a creature. If the player can't, you create a 3/3 black, red, green cat dragon creature token with flying, which happens to be one of the most adorable tokens ever.
It is. It is pretty cute.
Is a little kitten dragon. So when I initially started doing this, I asked myself, what does she do? Well, she is big. She makes people sacrifice things, and she makes tokens. So I ignored the big part for the most part, just because, well, you know, she's a dragon. Of course she's big, and that's not what I think about most of the time when I think about a general. So this means she happens to be really good against Voltron decks because she's making people sacrifice things, or Haymaker decks, so card or decks that play one big spell, and then you can just like attack right into them and get them to sacrifice it. And it's way less good against token builds. So if you're going wide, she will make you sacrifice your little 1/1s over and over again, or your 0/1 Sapperlings.
Yeah, she made me actually cast some creatures.
Yeah, and just the sacrifice effect was pretty much the reason why I won most of the games.
Yeah, that was nasty, actually.
Yeah. So since I'm somebody who always looks for the ways I lose first, the way I would lose with Wasitora is if I can't control how wide the deck is. So one of the very first cards I actually put in there is Knight of Soul's Betrayal. That way I can get rid of most of the 1/1 token generators. They'll just die off, and I don't want to make people sacrifice their little things anyway. I want them to sacrifice big, impactful creatures. So I wanted to put at least one of those kinds of effects to kind of deal with the elves problem or things like that. And then I thought, since we also care about tokens, but we don't really care about +1/+1 tokens, Parallel Lives is better than Doubling Season in this case, but there is definitely a build here where you take all the Jund card from Alara block with the Devour mechanic. You can make a whole bunch of those like 3/3 kitten dragons, or, you know, any kind of token, and then just eat them up, get lots of more. I mean, the Doubling Season is just a great card. You should get 100 of them if you can afford it.
You can't afford it. Nobody can afford it.
I can't. No.
Mm-mm.
Nope. So that's definitely another way to go. I went more of a good stuff Jund build. I just put all my favorite black, red, and green creatures into a deck, and then thought, try to figure out what to do with all of that. One of my favorite cards also happens to be Grave Pact, so I wanted to make sure I also had some sacrifice outlets so I can help control the board even more through the sacrifice outlets, with Grave Pact making them sacrifice more, and then on the flip side, I'll get some more 3/3 baby dragons, which all seems great. So ideally, and like an ideal card would be Dragon Tempest. That's just a great card. It's like Impact Tremors plus for this deck, because she's a dragon, she makes dragons, she's going to just do a lot more damage with it.
Yeah, it's like a cheaper Warstorm Surge just for dragons.
Exactly. I did not put Warstorm Surge in here because Dragon Tempest is so much better, basically. I did put Perforos in because he's good to have around, and I would like to have more options. And I also put Impact Tremors in because it's 2 mana. And I want to, you still want to curve in these situations. And while I was brewing this deck, I realized something. I wanted tokens, and I'm in red, so I would, of course, put Krenko Goblin Mob Boss into the deck. Of course. But I also put Knight of Soul's Betrayal in this deck. And all right. And then it made me realize I still get the enter the battlefield effects, but is there anything I can do for the creatures dying effects on my side? And I realized that Blood Artist would be great. And then I remembered that Blood Artist is an 0/1 and would also just die at Knight of Soul's Betrayal. So we go for the upgrade, Falcon Wrath Noble. There's a 1-of Falcon Wrath Noble just in case I can do silly things with people. And he just is good when you're just sacrificing things and making things do stuff. So yeah, it's a good stuff Jund build, but it was very effective against these two very specialized decks.
Yeah, you made a comment while we were playing the game that we had sort of a classic dynamic going on.
Yeah, combo, control, and aggro. I was the aggro player.
Yep, I was playing control, which was shutting down Nate's combo, and it kind of just let Patrick run amok. Basically, for all these 4 games, it looked like Patrick at 40 life, Dean and Nate at 16 life. And then Patrick killed us. For most of them.
Yeah, unless Tree of Perdition was caged.
Yeah, it turns out Tree of Perdition is really good.
Oh, yeah. We'll set your life to 4.
Oh.
And then I have 4 power on my commander to attack with.
And then Patrick came back and won that anyway.
I won 2 of the games. I won the game where Patrick crashed, so it was just the 2 of us. And then I won another game. So I won 2 games. Patrick won 2 games.
And out of 4 games, I won 0 games.
They were probably some of the funnest games I've played with you guys, to be honest.
They were pretty good games.
Cool.
Yeah. Damping Matrix was hilarious. That's not something you might usually hear, but it was pretty funny.
Stop.
Yeah. Go to resolve War of Invention. It resolves? And Nate just says, Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Yep. The biggest mistakes I made in these games were to destroy the dampening matrix. I could have just swept up the games much quicker, but I was like, I just didn't understand how powerful the deck was going to finish out games. Like, if I realized I could have just killed both of you in 2 turns without getting rid of the artifact, I wouldn't have done it. But
there was one game where I blew up the board just to hit my own damping matrix because you were at 40 and we were at, single digits each. And Nate had the Tree of Perdition under Mairsil, so I blew it up. But I had Cursed Totem in my hand to make sure that he couldn't get me with the tree after he set you to 4.
So what do you think of Mazarek in Wasitora?
I hadn't thought of it. I think it's a great idea, especially if I was going to go with the Devour mechanic. And I would slot Doubling Season right into that deck at that point. All in all, once again, I lucked out and got a very open-ended commander. She is just value of 5/4.
Yeah, she is just straight value, isn't she?
Yep. She is your Jund value. Oh, right. I was also running Blood Moon.
Yeah, you were. Oh, that was nasty.
And I wish I could tell you that I had a reason to run Blood Moon, but I don't.
How about keeping Nate off of blue and black for most of the whole game?
Yeah, that was good. I mean, I won't say it wasn't.
That didn't hurt so much.
I won't say it wasn't like great. I just literally was just like, I'm in Jund. Jund wants Blood Moon. And that was the end of the thought. And so I just put, like, I only had 7 non-basics. So the shock lands, a myriad landscape, and some fetches. So actually that number might have gone up a little bit to 9 with Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. But basically I just never saw any of my non-basics. And I thought that this week was the appropriate time to start punishing people for greedy mana bases.
People being the two of us.
But mostly you. I was in 2 colors, so I think I didn't really get hit by it too hard.
It did shut off your Reliquary Tower, but you didn't have like a million cards in hand or anything. But
it shut off Reliquary Tower, and it also shut off Maze of Ith at one point. Which was a problem.
Yeah, it was.
And you were asking me, why don't you just Maze of Ith it? I can't, Patrick, because it's a mountain, thanks to you.
That's me.
Yeah. I did the same thing to Nate. Nate, why don't you just discard a card to activate that Bow Damping Matrix?
Mm-hmm. So, I think we're talking about our games already, so let's talk about our last games. Our last game. So in the first game, Dean played Rest in Peace and a Damping Matrix, and I wondered if Dean was looking over my shoulder when he saw me pick my commander.
I was just psychic, I guess.
How did those get in there? And Patrick had an Impact Tremors and a Goblin Bombardment, and he bombarded us with tokens. The next game, Patrick crashed out after a couple turns, so it was just me and Dean. And I got a Torchling, which I think surprised Dean when I was able to untap Mairsil to block once.
Yeah, because you don't really associate that ability with red.
Yep. Untap. Boop. Block.
Yep. And that lost me my commander. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I turned him into a sheep with Ovinomancer, and I got a Tree of Perdition. Yay.
Yeah. I think that was the game Was that the game I came closest to winning?
Yeah.
I think I was at 16 and you were at 6, and then you just killed me.
Game 3, we saw the Damping Matrix again, and the Cursed Totem. Patrick got a Perforos out, but I got an early Tree of Perdition, a Morphling, a Coastal Wizard, and a Vector Asp. So I had Infect, and I could make everybody dead. Mm-hmm. And I did.
I think this was the game where I blew up my own Damping Matrix so that you could Tree of Perdition Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was probably going to win that without that play.
Absolutely.
Yep. Go from 40 life to 4. Boop. Game 4, I got an early Una. I got a Shauku Endbringer. I got a Nevinyrral's Disc. I don't think I got one of the blinking effects, so it took a while to get those. We saw Rest in Peace and a Cursed Totem again from Dean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those kept on coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't tutoring for them at all.
I tutored once.
Except that time that you did.
That one time. Just the one time.
And then Patrick hit us with Dragons and Neheb and Xenagos and Perforos and a Primeval Bounty to get more tokens with Perforos and a Parallel Lives to get more tokens with Perforos, and we got all dead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, me.
Watch out. Patrick's a killer. He'll kill you.
I'll kill you with a smile on my face. I might also take 10 additional minutes to figure out the best way to kill you. So, if you're dead on board, let me know. because it'll take me a little while sometimes.
Are you looking for the best way or the funniest way?
I'm usually looking for the most value-oriented way to win. When you win, it's already infinite value. So it's like, but I could draw 6 more cards if I do these other things, but you could just win. So I'm trying to get better about just winning. That's my current goal.
Yeah, don't show off so much.
It's not about showing off. It's just I just get into this like mode of like, all right, I got to draw these cards. Gonna draw them all. Got to see all my options. When I could just turn things sideways.
Mm.
Yeah, I've done that. I've had to change how I play Athreos because I'll just not kill people when I could end the game and we could go on to another game. I just used Turtle.
Look at the intricate gears of this machine I have built.
Yes, now watch as I do this for 3 turns, 3 wheels of the table.
All right, we're running long. Let's do a quick pets update and get out of here.
Sounds good.
The pets update.
Talon is a parrot now, just in general.
Period. That's the update.
I don't know what that means.
When we're in a car, me and the girlfriend, and Talon is with us, he sticks his head out the window as all good dogs do, and then he slowly climbs up onto your shoulder and sits down on the shoulder of the passenger and just spends the rest of his time with his head out the window on your shoulder.
Oh. Good for him.
Yep, just like that.
Hattie and Miri had their second flea bath today, and this one will really work, right, guys?
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
We're hoping for it.
I almost guarantee it.
Yeah. Hopefully. Miri's really scratched herself up, so she's got some bumpy patches of skin. So we're hoping that this will get rid of all the fleas. Fingers crossed.
All right. My cat, Siri, I'm trying to train her not to jump on top of the stove while I'm cooking. And it's not working yet, but it's in development.
One day.
Pain is a pretty good teacher.
Well, I don't want her to burn herself.
No.
I eventually I kept taking her down and talking to her, and she kept jumping back up. So I put her in the bedroom and closed the door.
Right, of course. But she didn't burn a whisker or singe her nose?
No, I was quick on the interceptions.
Nice. Nice action, Nate. Those are our pet updates. You can tweet your pet updates to @commandtime. And if you don't have a pet, maybe consider adopting one. This week's adoptable pet is Taffy from Janine the Bean Rescue, Inc. And she is a real sweetheart. She's got some calico coloring. One side of her face is orange, one side of her face is black, and she's got these giant eyes, and she's real fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of like a Harley Quinn cat.
I have a soft spot for calicos, so...
Yeah, and especially the big fluffy ones like this.
Yeah, she's a cutie.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you want to pick 3 more of these and brew something else next time?
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Okie doke.
I call whatever Nate calls.
Nope. I'm not telling.
Yeah, you should not tell us so that we can not run 8 cards.
Yeah, what's up with that, man?
I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out what works in this deck. And I think I got something that works, but seeing those cards was...
Maybe running 1 or 2 answers might be good that aren't activated abilities.
Hey.
I mean...
Yeah, throw in a Vandal Blast or 2, Nate.
Episode.
Bye-bye.
Visit us at patreon.com/commandertime.
You can find me on Twitter @Grubfellow.
At Detective Yarmus.
At Mr. Plorg.